One of my parents went to prison when I was 23.
This is Karina Oshiro. One of Karina Oshiro's parents went to prison. Looking back, she describes it as one of the greatest blessings her family ever received. That probably sounds impossible. It did to me, too. This is the Grandpa Channel. I'm Rivers, and this is what life taught Karina the hard way. Welcome to the Grandpa Channel. I'm Steve Harris. People call me Steve, or they can call me Rivers. And today we have a wonderful guest. She's a really good friend of my oldest daughter, Emily. And we are talking to Karina Oshiro, who lives in the Bay Area. Well, tell us a little bit about your life and how you've ended up in the Bay Area right now.
So I'm from Houston. I grew up in Houston and I went to college in Austin. And then I moved to San Francisco after college. And I met my husband here, lived in the Bay Area. And then it had always been my dream to move to New York. And I convinced him to move to New York. So we were in New York for a total of 10 years. And then back in Houston for about 3 years. I ended up getting a job in San Francisco. So we moved back in March officially. So we've been back for a few months now.
Oh, cool. Very
it's kind
cool.
of a full circle thing.
I don't want to sound like this is the Grand Inquisition or anything, but are there some things in your life that didn't go the way you planned that might be shaping you in a way that you never would have imagined?
I feel like I could talk for hours, Steve. So this is where I'm going to throw in my prison stories.
Yeah.
Prison stories. So I actually didn't finish college, and it's like one of my biggest hangups. I love school. I love studying. I do really well at test taking. And sometimes I think I should go back. I do sometimes think, well, if I had finished school, I think my life would have gone a different way, right? And so my prison story is, and this is going to throw you off.
Dying to hear the prison story.
So the reason that I moved to San Francisco, and this could be also what a lot of people don't know about me. I don't even know if Emily knows, maybe. Is it actually one of my parents went to prison when I was 23.
Yeah.
So right before I moved to California, and my parent got transferred to California, which is why I moved here to be closer to them. But I think about what my life would have been like if that had not happened. Like, we would just be completely different people. Like, I wouldn't probably be talking to you right now. Our family realized it soon after it happened that it was a blessing. Like, if it had not happened, life could have been a lot worse, right? Like the outcome. Which that seems like hard, right? Like you have two daughters and now we're having to figure out life on our own. I was 23, my sister was 18. And it was kind of like, oh, you need to grow up now. And so there was all this figuring out life. But I don't think that I would be who I am, or I would have done what I've done if I hadn't gone through that. So
what were your visits like was it your dad or your mom?
My mom, yeah.
When you visited your mom, what were your visits like?
You mean in terms of like what we talked about, or?
Yeah, actually going through, you go through all the security with doors opening and closing. If it's like any of the other jails I've been in, you sit face to face through thick glass.
Yeah, it's a little different. My mom was in a federal prison, which sounds terrible, but they're nicer, right? Mm-hmm. They're usually longer sentences. So she served 10 years in prison. Oh. So you're actually not in a glass. It's like face to face at a table, like picnic tables. They have like a courtyard kind of, and it wasn't maximum security because it wasn't like it was like a white collar crime. So they have like vending machines and like picnic tables, and you kind of just sit outside. So it wasn't that bad of an experience, at least not for me, right? Because I get to go home at the end of the day. But maybe for her, it was a little bit different.
Was it a jarring experience the first time that you saw her, you visited her in jail? Did you prepare yourself for it?
Oddly enough, and this is part of like people would never guess, we grew up in a very different lifestyle where you knew that like somebody was going to prison at some point. Like you knew that people were doing illegal things, right? So like and I think we were old enough. Maybe if we had been younger, it would have been shocking. But I think my sister and I were old enough to know that like this was gonna happen. It was just a matter of time. So it wasn't shocking. I mean, I think it was hard, but it was like, this is the reality of what we're living. I don't know. And there was no choice. Yeah.
It's probably, this is not something about you that you you say, "Hey, I'm Karina, and by the way, I visited my mom in the federal penitentiary she was serving." You don't lead with that. I'm really curious. How's she doing now?
She's good. So she has been out now for 13
Hmm.
years. And she's back in Texas. And my mom is also, well, a risk taker, to say the least. Uh,
Yeah.
but she's always owned businesses. So she owns a business. She and my sister, they own an alteration shop, which she owned something similar before she went to prison. Um, and she's doing well. And this is why I say, like, it was a blessing. She used to send us to church as kids, but she really didn't go to church. But she always kind of knew that, like, we should go to church. So soon after she went to prison, she got saved and she worked in the chapel at the prison for many
Oh,
years.
great.
It was great. She's doing great. Yeah.
Well, I'm happy to hear that. I told you that I served in the jail, county
Yeah.
ministerial jail, and that was the one thing that I learned from that was that God loves all of His children, every single one, and regardless of whether they've really, really messed up or screwed up. I also became sort of a reluctant connoisseur of tattoos. Uh, there was one inmate in particular who had this very ugly handmade tattoo right on his neck, and it looked like a butterfly, sort of kind. And I got to know him pretty good, and I said, Oliver, you got to tell me why the butterfly on your neck. Well, Brother Steve, he said, it represents that from something ugly, something beautiful can come. What has life taught you the hard way? And tell us a little bit about how that hard lesson came about.
I can think of like several things. A couple that come to mind are there is no gain without risk. I've learned that, and I really need to stop procrastinating.
But I'll do it tomorrow.
Tomorrow. I'll get to that
Yeah.
tomorrow. Also, one other one that is really important is that I can't really do life alone. I just used to be very, very independent, self sufficient. I can do this. I've had to do things alone. But the more that I've tried that, the more I've realized that I need community more than anything, right? I think, especially like having a child, you hear it a lot. It takes a village. That's so true. And I've realized that the hard way. And my one about there is no gain without risk.
Yeah.
My
What
life,
led? Yeah.
yeah, I owned a cafe, and I think that there's just a lot of times that I wouldn't have stepped out to do those things if I hadn't taken the risk, right? Because things are scary. You don't want to do them. They're uncomfortable. Or you hear that cliche saying that success is on the other side of comfort, right? You don't want to do things that are uncomfortable. So I've sort of learned that the hard way because I'm stubborn and I want to be comfortable and I don't want to step out sometimes. But what I've learned is that when I do and when I push through the things that I don't want to do, it is rewarding. So there's a lot of lessons there. I think a few lessons there.
Yeah. If you were a 28-year-old Karina who was listening to this podcast, what would you hope that a 28-year-old would take away from this podcast?
Yeah. Okay. It's a good one. Well, I think one thing that I've really learned is that growth isn't linear. And I feel like I've learned that a lot from the different experiences and I've changed my mind a lot. And sometimes I think we think that because we change directions, right, we decide we want to do something different. And you're like, oh, I've wasted all these years. And I think that it's good to know that it's not wasteful or it wasn't, or like failure is bad. But I think what I've really learned is I've actually learned something from each of the different things that I've done. Like maybe there was something that wasn't as interesting, but I can go back and say like, hey, I really learned something from that, right? Like owning the cafe, sometimes I'm like, I spent so much money, so much time. My back hurts. Like I know I have like damage in my ankle. There's just so many things. That experience is now great for what I'm doing now, right? Like, I couldn't do what I'm doing now if I had not done that one thing. Also, don't burn bridges because you never know when you're going to need a connection from someone. So yeah, I think that's what I would say.
Here's a question for you. As you've looked back on your life, Karina, do you see the hand of God in your life?
My gosh, without a doubt. And everything, every
Uh-huh.
single thing. I feel like there is not one thing that I could say I I did by myself or I figured this out. Even if I did figure it out, like he gave me my brain, right? He gave me the wisdom, you know.
Yeah.
It's hard when sometimes people say, "Well, my hard work. I earned this with my hard work." Because I do think but that still is given to you from God.
One question that I had for you is, what led you to open up? I mean, I don't want to act incredulous, but I have some friends who run diners or something of that, and they work. And what led you to want to open up your cafe?
I do love coffee, and there were no coffee shops in our neighborhood where we were. There was one, and it was maybe like 10 or 11 blocks away, which New York standards, that's far. Like you just need one that's like a block or two away. I also was always looking for like a small event space for like church activities. I always used to help with like our women's ministry, and so we would do like book clubs or we would have a baby shower for someone. In New York, it was so hard to find a space where you could host those things, right? That wasn't like a big expensive event space. So my thought was I'll have a coffee shop that's during the day and then I'll rent it out in the evenings for events and something close to our place because there wasn't anything around there. And so that's what kind of led to that. It was the need for a space in the neighborhood.
My daughter tells me that you are a gatherer of people. Is that something that's kind of you've done that for your whole life, or did that come on for a specific reason?
Yeah. No, I think part of it is culturally, right? Like Latin families, we gather and it's never small,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're always like cooking big meals and you're always inviting family over. So I think it was just natural. And I was really blessed when I moved to San Francisco. I met a group of women at church who became my small group for a number of years. And they were just really good at gathering. And we all sort of had this gift of hospitality in some way. One was a chef, one was a photographer, a graphic designer, and we all just kind of did this, gathering. One of them owns two restaurants now, and she was sort of my mentor when I opened the cafe. And so it just comes very natural. I still keep friends in most of the cities where I live, and when I go back to visit, I gather them, and they're like, "Oh, we haven't seen each other in months." It's like when you come, we all get together.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just something that I do. I like to keep in touch with people. I like people to know that I'm thinking of them. I like sending cards. I will say I haven't done that as much since moving back to the Bay Area. And I don't know, work is like very emotionally consuming. It's all new and it's growing. And so I haven't done it as much. But as soon as I get settled, it's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Did you have something happen to you that really maybe helped you, or that you learned from, I suppose, to help you to be a gatherer?
Well, I think moving to a new city and not knowing people, I think that was a big thing that happened to me when I moved here the first time. And like I said, those girls really took me in and invited me to places and fed me. I was young and figuring out life, didn't have a lot of money, right? Like, so I think I do that a lot. I'll take people under my wing or people that I know maybe are also struggling or don't have things figured out. I think what I do well is that I am relatable. I try to put myself in their shoes. Yeah, I think relatable is just a good way of putting it. Like whether I'm having to meet with an executive here at work or just a homeless person you meet somewhere on the street.
Mm-hmm.
How can we find something that we have in common so that people feel seen? And I think that really makes people feel welcome.
What is your superpower or superpowers? What comes to your mind?
I think my superpower might be that I literally think that I can do anything. And I don't mean this in like a weird, like cocky way. I think we can all become anything. I feel like we can all do anything. Like it takes practice, it takes taking a risk and doing it and having motivation and drive, whatever it is.
Let's say a woman is watching this interview. What would you like her to take away from what we've been talking about, what you've shared with me? Put your arm around her and say, "This is what I think, this is what I'd like you to think about."
gosh, there's so much. I mean, I think I've kind of said it, right? That like growth is not linear. Like, just do it. Do the things you want to do. Do the things that scare you. Like, advocate for yourself is one thing
Mhm.
I've learned a lot in like work. But like, if there's something you want to do it because the years will fly by. You will regret not doing it. And it may not look like what you thought it was going to look like, but it's worth risking or it's worth doing.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, right? And I think just the economy and everything's hard, but everything's financial, right? Like I don't have the money or I don't have the time. And
Mhm.
I think I've money ebbs and flows. That's something I've really learned. I really truly believe that. Like the more generous you are, the more that you're blessed. Like I've seen that over and over and over in my life. And I feel like it's hard for people, right? Because you're scared and you don't want to do things and I might not have enough or but when they say like, oh, when you're doing something you love, it doesn't feel like work. And I think it's true. I think so. I would say do the things that you want to do, even if they're scary.
So here's a question that you've raised in my mind is what's the scariest thing decision you've made that you just thought to yourself, what the heck am I
Yeah.
doing? Has
Well,
there
I
been
don't realize it until I'm like halfway in. I will tell you that. And then there's no turning back. Like
Yeah.
even well with the cafe, right? Like
Yeah.
I didn't think it was going to cost as much as it did.
Yeah.
And and you're knee deep in and you're like, okay, well, I've had to put things on my credit card. And then you're like, oh no, but here's the thing. It's not the end of the world. And
Yeah.
I think I've realized that. So you have to take out a loan to pay off the credit cards, but you learn something, right? And then you
Yeah.
learn that next time I need to plan for more.
One thing that stayed with me from this conversation was Karina's reminder that growth isn't linear. Life rarely unfolds in a straight line. Plans change, opportunities change. Sometimes we change. And every now and then, what feels like a detour ends up becoming part of the story. If you'd like to sit with this a little longer, there's another conversation this week about how some of life's most important lessons arrive disguised as setbacks. And if you'd like a place to reflect on stories like these a little longer, we've got a place for that too.
Growth isn't linear. Do the things that scare you. And it may not look like what you thought it was going to look like, but it's worth risking or it's worth doing.